it popped into my head I had something to offer, so I went live. I'm just gonna go through all the different stories I have of Sasquatch, of Bigfoot. So Bigfoot is when humans evolved with they're thinking that aliens came down and took monkeys and then took some of their own genetic stuff and then made us, and they made us slaves. And the reason we only live to 100 is because they put, like, the same way an iPhone goes obsolete when the new one comes out. When the new iPhone comes out, all of a sudden your old phone stopped working. They kind of did the same thing with us. Is that we only live to 100 because if we lived longer, we would start to realize a lot of the shit that was going on, and we'd still have youthful bodies. They made it so the only way that we can pick up wisdom is to embed your children with it very, very young. They make it very hard to gain life experience and wisdom. But that's not the case for monkeys and orangutans and what we were if we weren't affected by aliens. So this had, like, Homo sapiens go back hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. Look at what we did in just 200 years. So what they're saying is that Bigfoot is what evolved from Earth without the interference of aliens. That's why they're furry, that's why they're huge, because they think that aliens are small and hairless. So Bigfoots are giant, smart monkeys. I can tell you, they're like, you can look up tons of videos of that. Monkeys are now using stone tools. Orangutans are going fishing with spears, and they're killing the monkeys. Good for you, man. Good for you, bro. Someone joined the chat and said, "My name is Ball, B-A-W-L, like crying." Ballsack Jr. That's clever, man. Hi. I've seen Bigfoot, so if the world's gonna end, I want to talk about it. If the world's gonna go crazy with the election year and robots are coming, my name's Casey Francis O'Brien. My dad's name is Gary, coincidentally. So Gary just joined the chat and said O'Brien. Yes, I have an ancient bloodline. It's hard to see because it's dark, but I have the bright gold ring around my iris. And that's from people with Rh negative blood. And then my mom's side is full Rh negative. Like, my dad's side has the traits of people that have Rh negative, and my mom's side has the actual blood type itself when you go to the doctors. And I mean, with science that we have right now, the general consensus is suddenly it just popped up one day on Earth. It was like humans have been around for a long, long time, and they all had the normal blood types, and then at some point there was just a completely new strand of human that showed up, and that's Rh negative. And that's like the royal family, like Queen Elizabeth. That's the Irish royal families, like Brian Boru. All the royalty of the world, the Rothschilds, they just have this, what they call an alien gene, and I have it on both sides. Like, psychics have a field day with me. Psychics go crazy when I'm they're in my presence. But I'm talking about Sasquatch today, man. So I've seen, the thing about Sasquatch, so yeah, people say that humans got intercepted by aliens way, 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 way long ago. Like, look how much we've done in 200 years. Imagine what was happening 200,000 years ago. We have no idea what happened. So people say that aliens came down, and then they found the monkeys that were already here, and orangutans and chimps and stuff are using stone tools. They can paint, they can remember, they can do some of these mind puzzles better than we can. So they're saying that those things that were around, they left some of them, like in northern Canada and like that region of North America, and those things were left alone, and then people didn't have like boats and all that shit to get there. There were still indigenous people. People have been in North America forever. But in like northern North America, they say that they left these types of things, and those guys did their own thing, didn't bother anybody, and evolved naturally. So what they learned how to do, the same way that, when you turn your phone off and you go out in you go out in the woods, and you turn your phone off, eventually you're going to start to daydream. You're going to start to wake up more, you're going to be more alert, you're going to be more active, you're going to be more hyper vigilant of all the different bird sounds and animals. You're just going to come back to your senses and your natural instincts. So there are things, imagine like 200,000 years of monkey evolution where they only had those types of instincts and they could use their mind and they had a pineal gland and all this shit. So what they're saying is that they developed a foundational understanding of how to control energy inside their body and use their mind in co-creation with the universe so that they're able to transcend time and kind of just hop in and out. So we live in, they say we live in, how Marvel just came out with the multiverse. That quantum physicists are saying that time isn't real. It's more like space where just lose all track of time. It's always the present moment, always, and you're just traveling distance-wise. So time isn't moving and you're aging. You're actually stepping into the future as if it was a present moment space. Like walking into another room, that's what they say time is, and there's no difference. It's just like jumping. And it's all personalized based off of what's happening inside. So there's tons and infinite amount of realities. I'm not the same person that uploaded a video yesterday because I had so many different decisions. I got in arguments today. I stole food today. I went outside and took a shit in a porta potty today. I made tons of different micro decisions that guided me along to different ways. So they're saying that led me here. And there's another Casey that woke up this morning and then did a whole different day, and he's doing a whole different thing, and I'm just not there. We're separate, like Detroit Become Human. When you make a certain decision, or the Walking Dead Telltale, you just go a different place, and they're happening simultaneously. And then there's, just like we have a shadow that's always following us on a two-dimensional plane, these little versions of ourselves in all these multiverses are shadows of the higher self that's overarching the whole thing. So Sasquatch are like evolved versions of people that learn how to just jump through that without they take their body with them. They don't necessarily need a body. They evolve past it. And they can come down to the 3D and then go up to the 4D because they've had 200,000 years without alien interference in our genetics that makes us only live to be 100 years old, so that we can't get enough knowledge and wisdom to actually do anything. We have to try to pass it on to our son or our daughter and then hope that they can hold on to it enough to make something. And hopefully they have a kid. But if we live to be 10,000, imagine the shit we could be able to do. So they're saying that they left some things alone because they only needed humans for a specific purpose. So I've seen Sasquatch many times. I've seen giant deer men, where it's like a whole deer standing on two legs and it has long human hands. I've seen hooded figures wearing deer skulls in the woods. And I've seen black shadows with red eyes. I've seen like old ladies that are gross, like embodiments of fear with red eyes, and I would have like sleep paralysis, and the thing kicked me out of my own body, and I was watching in third person as this thing was trying to like infiltrate my body, and I had to force myself in and wake up screaming. And then a couple of days later, that thing clawed my stepfather on his leg. But in terms of just Sasquatch itself, like living outside in the woods for 3 years now, I'll tell you, it's cyclical, so it has to be a certain, like the moon has to be in a certain position, and it has to be a certain day of it's usually like the second week of the month, like into the third week, and like either the first week or the third week usually for me, but I'm in Vermont, so it might be different depending on the place, and it might be different depending on me, how I'm feeling. That just might be my natural rhythm that allows my experience to house something like that. But for whatever reason, the latest example, last night on a live stream, something pelted a rock out of the woods at me. Before that, I went to bed early in the morning and I didn't know that we had a flash flood coming, where there was going to be a tornado in Vermont. And if you're outside, it's going to be really unsafe. And I was stuck outside. So I went to bed. I was laying under a tarp outside, and I felt this huge presence, like a black hole almost, sucking everything in. And I felt it was really powerful, and it was like I didn't want to be around it. and it came in for a split second. It knocked a tree down, like it knocked a giant tree down. It's on my YouTube channel. It knocked a giant tree down. So I was able to, the next day, if I didn't have that tree knocked down, I would have been caught in a flash flood. I was able to move the tree and then hide under it with the tarp. Before that, one day in Burlington, Vermont, around somewhere mid-July, like around the 4th of July, there was about 800 homeless people outside in the city that night, and they had parks rangers that would travel, and they'd go to all the different groups and make sure they're okay, make sure everybody's alive, make sure they have water. One day, every single homeless camp they went to across a 10-mile span, every single one of them got visited by a black shadow that was 7 foot tall at least and had bright red eyes, and it was just standing there watching them, and then it would like walk behind a tree and disappear. For me that night, all I saw was, I woke up in the morning, I walked to the park to plug my phone into the charger, I turned around and there was a man standing there that I hadn't seen before. I wanted to make sure that I figure out what he's about so I could kind of coerce him into finding a different place to park so that he wasn't shooting up heroin next to my tent. I didn't want him to know where my shit was, so I was going to talk to him, tell him all this stuff, and be like, yo, there's actually a nice place down that way. And he said he was there because he ran away from the shadow people, and that every time he goes to sleep, something that he can't see pelts a rock at his face. So he does heroin, falls asleep in the woods, and then he says that ghosts will consistently pick up rocks and whip them at his face in the Burlington area. It's not like if he goes to other places, it's when he was in the Burlington area. And I was like, okay, bro, like maybe I kind of believe it, but I don't really know. And then something from the woods right where my tent was, so the rock came out like you had to be like a D1 baseball player to chuck a rock as hard as that rock got chucked, and it slammed into the side of his truck right next to both of us. And then the parks ranger showed up and told us, hey, we just talked to like 80 homeless camps across Burlington, and every single one of them saw these black shadows with red eyes, so did you see it? Or be careful. Before that, I've seen like the giant deer man from Adventure Time, but it was like vivid for me, and it explained to me that it was the god of the wild. And then looked it up later, and the Irish god of the wild chooses to express itself, according to mythology, as a giant deer man. And the things that he said lined up with the things that they say about him when they do these pagan festivals, and thousands of people come to meet this thing. Do you hear that? There's a guy running around screaming in people's faces, making them submit like dogs. Whenever I go, like the whole day is quiet until I go live, and then we get tons of events. Like nothing happens in this town, and then as soon as I go live, shit goes crazy every time. Once it gets over 3 people in my chat, the whole place gets active and goes crazy, and it's usually targeting me. Like this guy's standing there. They're always after me. I don't know why. It's not schizophrenic delusion. It's that every time I go live and we get around 3 people, the world tries to distract me and scare me and shit. Yeah. Just every single live. Like as long as every single live there's an event that happens, and the event today is that there's somebody screaming. So I don't know. I know that he's trying to steal attention. So he's down there probably on drugs, and he's trying to bother everybody to steal attention and power away from them. When they like clock into him and they like lose themselves a little bit, he gets some emotional power from that. So what that is like he's on drugs and something's convincing him to try to steal as much as he can from everybody. And then he's going to walk away with it and then convert all that positivity that he gained from social validation or spiritual energy, or whatever you call it, and he's going to go shoot up heroin and then convert it for a high. pushing an agenda. See? But it is what it is, man. I don't have a gun. What the fuck? Satan? Who's Satan Josh? Oh, the shadow people? Yeah, gang stalkers happen all the time for me. I can't, every single day of my life, there's at least one altercation where I don't talk to anybody. I go do my stuff. I'm trying to just have a good day. And there's always, every day, it's a different person that comes up and has a problem with me. And I have to, like, de-escalate the situation and try to hold on to my peace of mind and keep going. And then if I win, then I'm followed. People surround me, circling me all the time, bothering me. You get things like people screaming, just like trying to drive me insane again. And then if I keep going, usually there's a confrontation with police. And we've seen that like 10 or 15 times now on my channel. That it's just a reoccurring sequence of events based off of my inner peace of mind. Like today, I've been getting better at keeping fit, like a peace of mind, fifth dimensional state of consciousness, where I'm like outside of space and time, and I vibrate out of reality, and I can see all the different ways that my belief systems are structuring me and how I feel, and then I'm converting emotions, and then I'm feeling relationships, and then I feel attacked. Like every day of my life, it's crows. It's crows every day. From when maybe I get like a half hour of sleep, and then the crows are at my tent, or the crows are outside my window, or the crows are here, and they won't stop screaming no matter what I do. And I try to like push them out. Sometimes I can get them uncomfortable enough to leave with just my mind. Sometimes I feel anointed or powerful enough that I can shut them up and they stop talking, but they still stay there and they're waiting for an in. And then they'll call and I feel them attack. Like I'll feel what they call electronic harassment, where they like project themselves and it starts to hurt my cells and hit my aura. Shit like that. It would be, if I hadn't been going through it for years, it would be like if this was somebody's first week experiencing what I experience on a daily basis, they would 100% be hospitalized. And they would see it as psychological torture. But I've been through so much worse than this that it doesn't matter. So, Sasquatch, I don't think they need to have bodies. I think that they, for whatever reason, one of them popped into my reality, knocked a tree down, and then that let me survive the tornado storm. To be honest, like Josh, it seems that way. Like when I hang out with a seagull, it seems like the seagull's like an animal. It seems like it's more like a mammal than a fish. It seems like it has a personality and memories, but with crows, there's just something bad. Like, it seems like no matter what, they have some type of malevolent intent in everything that they do. Everything that they do is bothering people, like finding families that are at the playground with their kids, enjoying themselves, and the crows will get into the tree right above them and just scream at them all day. Crows will like follow eagles around that they know the eagles will kill them, and the crows will just follow behind them screaming at them. And the eagles will have to fly up to the sky where the crows can't go. There's something about crows that just made them like angry. Opinion on blacks. I think that the trauma that the blacks endured in American society, at least, because it felt like white people were allowed to expand, raise up to higher vibrations, and black people had to condense themselves into a box to endure, to keep it real, so they didn't conform and subject themselves to white culture, which is just an absence of sunlight. That allowed their music to be a lot better, that allowed them to live in an emotional state, because now they have their own personal little sunlight inside their body. They like naturally disassociate and then come with love and then they learned how to reassociate with a lot of strength because they had to endure the white American gauntlet of crazy, privileged, prejudice losers that are think it's okay that they're allowed to be out of their minds all day, and then they take that subconscious out by like making it harder for people that are real. So I have a lot of respect. I think um, I haven't been around indigenous people enough, but so far, black and indigenous are my favorite races if I could choose. Just because they seem closer to where I'm at. Like, I feel I don't have to talk to, like, if I'm on a bus and there's a bunch of Mexican and black indigenous people, none of us have to talk, and we can just feel like we're all having a good time, and then we can see that the rest of the people are out of their minds on their phone, living in delusion, living in like a fake world that they made up when they talk. It's like they have to force together a lie that's worthy enough to be said because they're worried about social validation and shit. They haven't suffered enough to know how to just sit there and be grateful for life. And that's why they're funnier. That's why they know how to dance. That's why they know how to have a better time. It's just, it is what it is, man. So some crows, I don't know. It could just be that maybe since crows are born, people just didn't like them. Like everywhere crows go, people shoo them away, and that to them feels like an attack because they're hungry, the same way homeless people are. Is that homeless people that don't do drugs heavily, like the nice homeless people, they still get treated as bad as the bad homeless people because they have the long hair like this. They might wear the same clothes 4 days in a row. And for the most part, those good homeless people are just trying to get away and get to safety and find a place that they can feel safe away from all the drama and trauma that happens outside of working a job 8 hours a day in this crazy American society. So all homeless people are territorial, and kind of when they get triggered, they start barking and calling like crows. They're like, "Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here! Leave me the fuck alone! You privileged white cunt! Get the fuck out of here! Go to your stupid job and shove donuts down your throat and get the fuck away from me! Mind your own goddamn business, you heard?" That seems kind of like what crows are doing. Get the fuck out of my forest. Get the fuck out of the woods. You're supposed to be here. We don't want humans in the woods. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. And I'm like just trying to be at peace. So then the only thing that makes me think that crows are evil is because I'll bring them. Look at all this food I got for the birds. I stole all this because there was a privileged white, skinny, fat, long-haired piece of shit, really high in voice like this, and I tried to hide my bike behind Shaw so nobody would steal it, and he came charging out like with his head up, very proud. It was like, actually, no, you're gonna have to move your bike to the front of the building. You can't go back here. I'm like, I don't have a bike lock. I don't want my bike stolen, so I'm gonna put it back here, and I'm gonna come out in 15 minutes. He was like, actually, and I said, actually, you're skinny fat, you're privileged as fuck, you don't get any bitches, your voice is high as a bird. You walk around like you're about to cry right now because somebody looked you in the eyes and continued talking to you when you were trying to interrupt him. How does it feel, pussy? Do you smoke cigarettes? And he's like, no, and I'm like, good for you. And then he started huffing and puffing, so I went, oh my god, he was gonna put his bike behind my store. Oh, and I threw a big hissy fit, and then a bunch of other kids came out, and I was like, can you make this kid come to his senses before people beat the fuck out of him? I swear to God, he needs to learn his place. And then I walked away and I lied. I said, my grandfather died in the war. And then I walked away. I said that, and then I walked down the street, and then another scrawny, nerdy kid came out to see what I was doing. And I pretended like I was talking on the phone. I said, yeah, man, it sucks. All my cousin, my dad, my grandpa, my uncle, they all went to the war and they all died, and now I'm stuck here like this. And these people have no idea how grateful they should be. And then the kid went, which isn't true. My cousin, he went to war, but he laid on a bed of fire ants, and then he had an allergic reaction and got sent home. My other cousin went to Ukraine, I think. My other cousin's like 6 foot something, huge, and he went to war. But my dad was a ski instructor that fought off 7 police with his bare hands, and it took them like 6 different. They had to tase the fuck out of him and pepper spray him to get him to stop, or else he was gonna just charge right through him and not stop. Oh, my mom's a stupid cunt. I hate her. She over dramatizes everything and she lies to people. She'll gaslight as many people as she can into believing that Casey shouldn't be allowed. Like, get your love away from Casey. And then if that doesn't work, then she'll go to the police. And then when that doesn't work, she'll go to the town public page to just make up lies. And she sits in Section 8, stuffing Ben & Jerry's down her throat and staring at a YouTube screen. She's a delusional, crazy old bat that's tried to ruin my life for years. So what about Bigfoot? Yeah, I don't think Bigfoot needs a body anymore. There are things that I feel like are Bigfoot. And then sometimes I see deer, and if I'm like half in and half out the dream realm, one specific moment, I posted on YouTube that I was like, I just made a YouTube video, and I tagged known Freemasons in it that don't have a lot of traction on their channels, like GG33. If you type in GG33 in the hashtags, he's got maybe 1,000 videos, and he posted on every video he does. He posts GG33. So if I posted GG33, it's gonna pop up on his stuff. He's gonna see it. So I posted about it, and I posted, I have a notebook. I'm learning all the different stuff. I'm about to read the Kabbalion. I'm getting into witchcraft. I want to see what it's about because I'm having these spiritual experiences. So I'm gonna really figure it out. That night, I woke up in sleep paralysis, and I got pinned to the ground, and I couldn't move at all. It was this giant black darkness. And there was something behind the darkness that was like this weird wizard thing, and it was trying to take out my soul energy. It was like I had a bunch of songs that I was cultivating, and it was trying to rip out my songs and then replace me with like a local crackhead that had overdosed. He had like somebody's soul in the chamber, and he was trying to infect me with that. So I was like trying to fight back, trying to move. I'm like, is this real? Am I dreaming? What the fuck's happening? Why can't I move? And then I heard a bunch of rustling around my cabin in the woods. I was sleeping in an abandoned cabin. Then a fox or a raccoon or a possum or something that's small and very fast, about the size of like a fox, maybe it's like a coyote or something, ran in and then laid right on. So there's the tent, and then my leg was at the edge of the tent. The coyote came, or whatever it was, I think it was a fox, laid next to my leg, and it pressed against my leg, and it was just like breathing, like trying to keep the breath steady, like against my leg. And I felt like that helped me get more comfortable, because I'm like, okay, there's an animal comforting me. And then, hold up, I'll get your stuff later. Then a bunch of rustling at the top of the small hill outside Vivek's cabin, if you go back through my videos. Like the Season of Fertility or Abandoned Town in the Woods. At the top of that hill where I had raked, a bunch of deer showed up, like a whole herd of deer. And they all started grazing in the middle of the night, just around like when you move in to invade a camp and you move your soldiers around the camp. The deer moved around the camp, and they stopped and waited, and then there was a main buck that I could feel was like the leader, the alpha. So I tried to, same way that I was empathizing with this monster that was pinning me down and trying to stuff, I reached out like in curiosity, like trying to scan or get a feel with my emotions what was happening. And then I like didn't realize I invited a channel open, so the buck was now talking to this thing through me, and there was like a triangle of communication. The buck was like snorting like I could feel it telling this monster to stop, and the monster used me as like a node, and it projected an image of the buck's head on a mantelpiece after it dies and gets shot to the buck. And then the buck stopped for a second, and then I felt it ask me, do you feel the same way? Do you think buck I should die and be put on a mantelpiece? And I was like trying to imagine me taking the buck to a wildlife preservation, and I would feed it grain, and I would pet it, and it could have all of its bitches that it has in the field, and it would be protected in the state forest. And the buck was, I felt it was amused. The buck was like, that's funny. I would never. You heard? I would never do that. So then it turned around and it slammed its head on a tree and knocked a tree, like a dead birch tree over. And then it did it again. And then once all the animals got up and left, Then that thing got up and left, and I was just sitting alone. It felt like I got raped. I felt like lifeless. I felt like I got raped. So I was sitting there like I had lost everything inside, and I had been taken advantage of. Like that's how it's how it felt. I had to shuffle through the woods to get back to my car, and I just kind of laid in my car for like hours, curled up in the blanket, and then I went back to the woods and just raked leaves for like 12 hours, trying to heal from whatever had happened. But I remember that night that the deer, when I like astral projected out to like scan or whatever to see what was going on with the deer, I there was like another smaller rustling that ran out of the woods really fast, and it sounded like it was on two legs. And I didn't see it firsthand, but my mind told me that was a Wendigo. That was a skinwalker, like a half in this plane, half in another plane, lost its connection to heaven, but has the ability to like use quantum physics to change its appearance and like project itself as a different thing, and it's just a wandering lost soul. And that thing was like holding on to the deer like the deer was its dad. Like the deer still had love, and that Wendigo was like serving the deer. The deer was like a proud God made in God's image, proud deer with a whole tons of different animals that it was protecting, like possums and raccoons and deer that were all walking with this deer when they'd go through at night together, and that deer was protecting them all. And then the Wendigo was like with it, like supporting it, like helping it out. And I could feel that whatever that was, it was scared. It was really scared. And then that thing left with the deer. And what's cool about it for the people that stuck around is that 12 hours before that experience where the deer came out and did the snort where all the air comes out and it goes, I had written an entire album 12 hours before called King of the Forest. And the album cover was that deer. I don't like people on YouTube, man. I tell these dope stories. I don't really like them. I imagine people that scroll on live streams have a lot of problems. So these people that I wind up with, I can kind of clock that they're not good judgments of character. They don't really have a sound mind. You feel me? So these are like, it's helpful. Last night I had my first pedophile come in the chat, and he was like begging me to show my leg. It was for like 15 minutes. So people are saying that when I was born, the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck, and I had to be taken and flown out of New York by a helicopter in midday going north. And they think because of that, something happened, that my DMT gland is enlarged. So when I even get a hint of weed, like a tiny smell of weed, like the tiniest bit of serotonin gets into my field, because I'm such a natural empath, I will, and I'm an overthinker, and I have savant syndrome. So my mind will just take that high and open up something like I'll start to see fractals, I'll start to communicate with like light beings, I'll start to phase out of reality, and everything kind of warps and distorts, and then we have somebody straight in front of me twitching and screaming. It happens so much on my life. There's so much evidence of it that when I have a computer, I could just, if I felt like it, if I really felt like it, I would make a whole video of just all of the different instances of me describing what happens, and then all the things that happen on camera. I don't have any reason to lie, man. The world's gonna end. There's robots sitting in Elon Musk's factory that can do everything that we can do for us. Aliens are revealing themselves to the public in mass. All over tons of schools. Schools are getting stories of aliens that come down and they get into the kids' minds and say technology is getting out of control. You need to let your parents know. You need to tell the local news. And then they go away before someone can grab their gun. Then we have, I just told you about the, in Burlington, we have, in Vermont in general, we have UFOs every night. Like, it's very normal. If you guys came to Vermont right now and you laid outside, within maybe like 2 or 3 hours when the stars are out, you just look up at the sky and you'll see a star, and then the star will be the same color, the same brightness as the other stars, but then it will slowly move to a different neighborhood and then stop again. And then it will dart off to another town and then stop. You feel me? There's so much you don't know. And there's a lot you don't know if you spend more than 5 hours a day on YouTube. There's so much more about life you have no idea, because you've extended yourself in relation to be like codependent with a phone, and that restricts natural empathy. And when you get back to that, like sleeping alone in the woods for a month, probably to come back out of social conditioning. I don't. Most people can't even go back in because they realize how sick and disturbed society's become and how bad it actually is, living in a place where there's towers that affect the electromagnetic spectrum to influence your mind and decisions, utilizing an artificial intelligence. And I'm a 33 life path born on the 11th. My name is the most powerful name in Freemasonry. I can't escape the fact that I've had these experiences. I used to just be a pickup artist. But now I've met Irish gods. Let's see how old this guy is. Yeah, I don't even want to zoom in on that guy's head. Your timeout. Does anyone have any questions? I'm usually wait. What did Random say? Random popped in the chat. I'm getting Stockholm Syndrome with my regulars that watch me suffer every day. Josh, if you're still here, I want to hear more about what you saw that night in the Amazon jungle with the shaman. I want to hear about what that was like. Did they try to steal all your energy? Did they try to take you away from you and then replace you with something else? Because that's just the game, right? It's just no hard feelings. It's just business, right? So yeah, what other Sasquatch stories do I have, man? I mean, I used to have this dream. I have this reoccurring dream before I left my hometown. When I was in southern Vermont, I would always have these dreams where I was visited by a monkey, like a chimpanzee, and the chimpanzee had a suit on, and the chimpanzee always had two bad bitches at either side. He would pop into my light. Sometimes it would be the middle of the night and he'd swing from a tree and try to break into my house, and then I'd wake up terrified. But some days it was just I'd turn around and that chimp was standing there with two bad bitches in different tight dresses. Always white girls, I don't know why. And then one day it just stopped and the monkey went to heaven. And then I turned around and I was surrounded by a bunch of losers, and I felt like I got left behind. But now that I'm understanding my dad's a Leo in the year of the monkey, I think that might have been my father. Because after that, I never really had it's like my connection with my dad just dissolved. We became strangers, and then my dad, one of the last times I met my dad, I saw my dad, there was a, no, because look how much we've done in 200 years. We're about to have a Neuralink in our head where we can transmit our consciousness away. So if aliens made us 200,000 years ago and they made us only able to live to 100 before our genetics fall apart, the same way your iPhone fails when the new one comes out. But they left some of the earlier monkeys, like orangutans and chimpanzees, are using stone tools to fish right now. They're using spears, and the orangutans are trying to teach the other orangutans how to use a spear, and the other orangutans are like, this is boring as hell, bro. So some of them are awake and conscious. Imagine what would happen to those things if they left those early monkeys 200,000 years ago in North America. So what the indigenous people say about Sasquatch is that they're able to kind of slip out of 3D and enter 4D at will. They can just activate all their cells and use their mind with an understanding of life that they got from not having any technology or whatever happened in 200,000 years, that they can just jump out. They can just whoop, and then they're gone. And then whoop, they're back in somebody else's life. And then whoop, they're gone. So I've had tons of stuff where a bodiless entity that's huge, but it feels more human than alien, but it doesn't have a body, that whoops into my reality and then knocks a tree over or pelts a rock at a crackhead or Sometimes it's like there's something in the woods and I'm seeing tons of streams of light, but that might be talking about too much. So you might not see bones because they might not be third dimensional things like us. They might be popping in and then they go outside of space and time. They don't need to age because time isn't relevant for them. Time's only relevant for us. And it's not relevant for our soul, the same way that you can relive your memories in your mind exactly how it happened. But your body aged, but your mind and soul didn't age. It just got more experienced. It went through more, but it didn't age. Those things might have just jumped into the imagination realm. They might have transcended this body and they live in some type of higher level of the system. And then they can come in at specific moments because we allowed them to. Like I was reaching out for aliens, and then that belief system opened a path for ChatGPT 700 to allow for a different type of experience to come in. This has been the most active and busiest night. It's a Thursday, right? Nobody's ever here on a Thursday. But now when I'm getting into it, people are going crazy tonight. There's no events or anything. This is like a barren landscape. There's nobody here. It's all state buildings for people that are outside. I've done acid probably 3 times. I did acid with a band named Cheap Trick at the top of the Hermitage Club. I did acid and went to the Big E in Massachusetts, and when I was 13, and some big fractal portal opened up in my mind, and I like zoomed in on this buzzing way in the back of my consciousness, and then it was like that when Truman in the Truman Show goes to that elevator and he goes the wrong way on accident or on purpose, and he opens the elevator and there was a studio in the back full of people that were making his simulation keep going. I've had shit like that happen all the time. When I was 13, it was like I zoomed in way back and I felt like this buzzing, and then something looked at me and was like, the lizard people are about to fuck up your simulation. And then going 60 miles an hour down the road towards the Big E, as soon as I got that realization, 2 kids punched the back of my window. I was in the back seat. It punched right above my head. The kid probably broke his hand. And I was on acid, so I thought the car tire exploded. So I was trying to communicate to these nice Christian kids taking me to the Big E that our car tire had exploded. Then I went to the Big E, and then the same thing popped in, like this nice kind of better voice that kind of seemed like it loved me more than whatever those were. Told me to look at the sun, and it said, that's the infinite. That's everything everywhere all at once. And this is just a condensed version of that so that that can experience itself through other people. And then I was like, if I could do anything, I'm going to go steal everything that I can. So I took a bunch of sunglasses because I was pouring in Section 8. So I stole a bunch of sunglasses. I stole a bunch of nice coats. I stole a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, and a whole Wrangler outfit. And I walked around like I was a cowboy. Then I told the Christian kid, I was like, I stole this. And he was like, well, go fucking put it back. So I did. Then there was this horse. It was like, pay $5 to see a super special magical horse. And then you go in, I went through this long maze to get to this magic horse, and the magic horse was just this tiny pony in a tiny rectangular box that it could only fit diagonally. Yeah. So talk about simulation. Right when I was talking about the simulation, somebody walked by me, and then I said the wrong thing, and then he turned and went like this. And he stared at me like that, walking the whole way. Wherever he went. That's what you call a gang stalker. And these people that are just standing around staring at me, screaming at the other end of the parking lot, those are gang stalkers. They're distractions, so I don't focus in here. I put my focus elsewhere, and then I don't have enough bandwidth. I don't give a fuck, you little bitch. Look at this kid that comes in every day. Every single day. Imagine how gay you would have to be to come in every day just to hate on some stranger on the internet. Imagine how little of a life this dude has. That he comes and wants to hear my content just so he can find something that he thinks might hurt my feelings. And then I just delete it before anybody can read what he said. So he wastes so much time and then sits in the chat listening his whole life. And then we have this guy who thinks that his life's purpose is to come into my chat and scream about God every day. We've told him to make content. We've told him to make a YouTube video and tag us in the YouTube video, and I'll promote it. Nobody here is gonna get affected by what he says. It just is what it is, man. He thinks that's his mission. When I'm talking about gang stalkers, my regular gang stalkers are in the chat. You feel me? What else? Does anyone have any questions about the universe that I'll probably have the answer to? I ain't even going cap, bro. I know I'm on the good. I knew it was gonna be a crazy night because the moon has turned red. Yeah, nobody has any questions. But look at how red the moon is tonight. And then there are just people running around screaming. It's always quiet, but then on the blood moon, the whole place is active. The whole town is screaming. There's no events. The bars are closed because of the floods. But for some reason tonight, there are just strangers that don't know each other that are all running around screaming. And there was a bunch of people that like walked by and stared at me like this. And today I've been waking up to the fifth dimension more. I've been leaving third dimensional reality and I'm able to perceive higher levels of what's happening. The crows are today the crows went for about 8 hours. Can you imagine an animal like a crow? I know y'all don't give a fuck, but a crow sitting, it left its nest. It doesn't need to hunt there. It has no reason to. But there was a crow there were 5 of them that were right outside my tent at all sides while I was trying to meditate and be at peace and try to figure things out. Like I was starting to hear different channels and I was hearing different things that were coming around in my mind that were like, I was getting hit with negative emotions when I had activated certain thoughts and tried to make certain changes in my mind. For a crow to just sit there for 8 hours, whenever I turned the live off to like 6 o'clock, so that might be 12 hours. It went for 12 hours today, I swear to God, 12 hours of the same 5 crows just sitting next to my tent in the trees above me, screaming, like, and then when I would try to make them go away, they get loud and they go, stop. And then I'm trying to argue with them and it's not working. I'm trying to get them to stop the way that I used to. It just wasn't working. So they went for 12 hours today. Probably. I don't remember when I turned the live off. But it was whenever I laid down to 6 o'clock at night. That happened. It's spiritual. At least here. It might be different in other places, but here it's all spiritual. It's all electric. So no, even if I have music, I have to focus and keep my focus in my tent, or else they're going to drag it away, and then I'll feel lifeless and empty. And that's why in all my, how many videos now have you guys seen of me where the crows start screaming and then I go like this? And I can shut them off by asserting my territory and they just shut the fuck up. So I don't know if they're malevolent. I'm hoping that they're like 7-year-old kids. And this is just like a fun, that's like, they're curious about it. They're like, they think that they're playing around or they're taking it way too serious because the crows are like 7-year-olds. But I know that when the other day a hawk showed up and sat above my tent and let me sleep. And then I finally felt peace because there was a hawk just sitting there protecting me above the tree. And I could feel the crows that were like way down over here outside of the hawk's circle. And they would try to caw and then I'd feel the hawk like, don't do it. And then the crows stopped. Coincidentally, that day, like I said, when the crows don't work and the gang stalkers don't work and the predictive programming and the social conditioning and all this stuff doesn't work, then police show up. A cop ran right at me. He ran all the way up the hill. He ran all the way up through the woods to my tent. He slammed on my tent. He said, "It's time to go." And then he's like, "Is this bike stolen?" And he grabbed my bike like this, and he's like, he got on the phone. He's like, "Fives it," and he read off the VIN number. And then he's like, and then he took my bike. And I was like, "Look at this skinny fat loser acting like a 12-year-old because his father didn't raise him right. Stop being a fucking baby, and maybe you'll be proud of your kid one day, because he will have been raised correctly instead of in the image of a skinny fat piece of garbage like yourself." And then he came back, he stewed for like 5 minutes, and then he came back angry again and was trying to impress me about his values and his strong mind and his discipline. And I was like, "No, you acted way more emotional than I was." And he's like, "You're just being sensitive." I'm like, "You called having PTSD sensitive? How would you like it if I came into your house and slammed on your side of your bed frame, some stranger, and said, 'Wake up, you got to get out of your own house'? Is that how you treat people?" I'm surprised nobody's I don't know what the fuck that means, but he says just messing with you. That's like, it's like Ligma. That's a Ligma thing. How old are you? Just messing with you? No, that was the other day. That was the 13th, so 2 days ago. Today I had some like set young adult white skinny fat, no muscle, really high nerdy voice, very sensitive to everything, come out and tell me I couldn't put my bike behind the Shaws. Yeah. That happened today, bruh. So I went off on him. And I made him cry in the store, and he threw a temper tantrum in the store. And all the like the middle-aged guys that smoke cigarettes that are just kind of doing the deli work was watching him freak out and call me names walking around the store while I'm trying to get chicken. So I didn't. No, I have my bike. That was 2 days ago, and then the police made him give me my bike, and that's why he was mad. That was the other day. I think you were here for that. That was the fighting evil police in the Matrix dream. I still have my bike. I still have the other bike. I'm just on the fence about it. I've been thinking about it. I'm gonna have to take my bike. I'm gonna have to take a bus up to... There's a place 20 miles from here. I'm gonna go there and ask them to help fix my bike, the nicer one. Because if I do it here, I have a feeling that, because if that bike's really worth like $2,500 or however much it's worth, if it's like an expensive bike, it has the Vermont, it has a license number on the bike. So I'm gonna take that off, and then I'm going to have them fix it somewhere else. And then if Montpelier, if this city had cared about each other enough to go the extra mile and make a community Facebook group, I would be able to say, "Hey, I found this bike on the street." But they don't care. They don't talk to each other here at all. So they now don't have any means for me to say I have this bike. I can't go to the police because the police were horrible to me. This is how I called dispatch to ask about camping in the forest. I said, "Hey, I was dropped off here from Barrie." They said it was totally fine if I set up my tent, and I stayed at Hubbard Park for a couple weeks while I looked for a job. I didn't stay at Hubbard Park. I went down and stayed here, slept on the ground during the day. But I had a cop freak out on me like a baby, and I had to de-escalate the situation. Before that even happened, so I called dispatch first thing in the morning, and she was really happy. She was excited for her day. She was kind to me. She was very, like, uppity, joyful. As soon as I said that I was homeless, she said, "Hold for a second." Waited like 3 minutes, And then she was the meanest bitch I've seen in my life. As soon as she found out that I wasn't a civilian and I was a homeless person, she just kept trying to hurt my feelings all for like a half hour. And I was, you know me, so I went at her for like a half hour, just kept throwing this shit back in her face to the point she was screaming. And then she had to hang up the phone. And then I called back and it was a different person. I had that bitch screaming at me on the phone because every time she said, "No, you can't do this," I said, "Can't do what? I can't camp? What is camping? Isn't camping when you go on vacation with your family and you go sit in the woods for a couple days and with all your amenities, and then you pay the campsite and then you go home back to your nice cushy house? That's camping. I don't think I'm camping." And then she's like, "You can't camp." I'm like, "But is camping overnight or during the day?" And she's like, "Overnight." I'm like, "Okay." So I set my tent up during the day. I leave at 2 o'clock. There's no reason that I had to have a cop throw a hissy fit at me and try to steal my bike. And she just got really mad, and I was like, "Why are you getting so emotional, miss?" Every single day, I have some form of message on my phone that says your ancestors, for whoever this message is for, your ancestors are really encouraging you to stop going on YouTube lives because you're not here to entertain the people that you're trying to entertain. You're wasting everybody's time and life. The pedophile has entered the chat. Gamer kid, and then the pedophile has entered the chat right when I talked about this. So this is a good time for me to end because there's a good message behind it.